This one really gets to people, doesn't it? The Adam Walsh case.
It's one of those cases, that just, it stays with you.
And you're right to want to really dig into it, go deeper than just the surface.
Absolutely, because it's more than just a case, really. It sparked a whole movement, changed the way we think about child safety.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to unpack the details, the investigation, the legacy, all of it.
The whole 9 yards. Now, what makes this case so fascinating, so disturbing even, is how incredibly ordinary it all seemed at first.
Right. 1981, Sears department store.
You couldn't get more everyday America if you tried. And that's what's so terrifying about it.
Because it's that fear, right? That it could happen anywhere to anyone. 6-year-old Adam Walsh playing video games while his mom's just a few aisles over.
Just a normal day. Until it wasn't.
And that moment when they realize he's gone, that panic.
Unthinkable. And then, 2 weeks later, to have that unimaginable news hundreds of miles away, Adam's severed head is found. It's horrifying, but it's crucial to understanding the sheer magnitude of this case, the massive search effort that gripped the nation.
And looking back, the early stages of the investigation, there were some, missteps, to say the least.
Yeah, there was some serious missteps. Miscommunication between agencies, time wasted. It really highlights how much investigative techniques have evolved.
It's easy to judge in hindsight, of course, but these were mistakes with huge consequences.
Absolutely. And it exposed a real need for better coordination, better communication between law enforcement agencies. This case was a wake-up call.
And just when the trail seemed to go cold, this name pops up, Otis Toole.
Oh, Otis Toole. Convicted serial killer. A chilling figure.
Right. And he confesses to Adam's murder.
Which, you'd think would be a major break in the case, but then he recants.
Throws everyone for a loop.
Exactly. And Toole, he had this history, you see. Mental illness, a desire for notoriety. So, were his confessions genuine, or was he just seeking attention? It's a question that has haunted this case for decades.
And even with those confessions, there was never that definitive physical evidence tying him to Adam's murder. And that's what makes it so unsettling, right? That lack of closure.
Absolutely. It was a mystery for a long, long time. 25 years, in fact. It wasn't until 2008 that the case was officially closed, with police finally naming Toole as the killer.
But even with that resolution, there were still those unanswered questions, those lingering doubts.
There always are in cases like this, unfortunately. But there's another side to this story, a side that's not just about tragedy, but about resilience, about turning unimaginable grief into a force for good. And that's where John Walsh comes in, Adam's father.
Because he could have retreated, understandably so. But he chose to act.
He became this tireless advocate for missing and exploited children.
America's Most Wanted. That show was groundbreaking.
Oh, absolutely. It brought these cases into our living rooms, showed us the faces of the missing, made us part of the solution.
And it worked. Hundreds of criminals brought to justice because of that show.
It completely changed the way we view law enforcement, public engagement, everything. It was revolutionary.
It really was. And then beyond the show, you have all the legislation that came about because of Adam's case.
The Missing Children's Act, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
The Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act.
These weren't just words on paper. They fundamentally changed how law enforcement responds to these cases.
Imagine how differently things might be handled today. In the age of instant information, Amber Alerts on our phones, DNA technology, it's all connected back to Adam's case.
It's a legacy that continues to this day. But we can't talk about this case without talking about the media. It was inescapable.
247 news coverage. It was a constant barrage of updates, speculation.
A real turning point in how the media covers these kinds of stories. And it had a profound impact on public perception.
Right. This idea of stranger danger really took hold. And while it's important to be cautious, statistically, most abductions aren't by strangers.
Exactly. It's often someone the child already knows, which is a tough pill to swallow, but it's the reality. The Adam Walsh case, it's a reminder that child safety is complex. It's not just about avoiding strangers. It's about open communication, about teaching our kids about potential dangers without terrifying them.
And that's the balance we have to strike. It's a heartbreaking case, filled with those what-ifs, with a resolution that doesn't quite feel satisfying, but it led to real, tangible change.
It forced us to confront uncomfortable truths, to demand better for our children. And in that way, Adam's legacy is very much alive.
It makes you wonder, though, doesn't it? If this happened today, in the age of social media, with information spreading like wildfire, would it have turned out differently?
It's impossible to say for sure, but it's a question worth pondering because it reminds us that the conversation about child safety is ongoing. We can never let our guard down.
It's a conversation that has to continue and evolve, just like the world around us.